Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is August 5th, and right now we are looking at the infrared satellite imagery. We've got the trough out over the Gulf of Alaska, jet stream pointed at the region, frontal system incoming, some much needed rainfall for many areas, and then we'll take a look at what is coming through the extended forecast as we go through the video here this morning. Now, this weather station is very fun. It tells you when it starts raining at your house. It'll even send you a notification to your smartphone. The smartphone app has its own Doppler radar overlay as well. Fun stuff. Check it out. Click the link down below to save 10% off on one. Now, looking at the wider view of things here, this is at about 300 millibars, about 30,000 feet up in the atmosphere, of what is known as a jet stream here. So you can kind of see that Japan is off to the left. There's the Hawaiian Islands, bottom center, Pacific Northwest to the right of this image, and there is the jet stream and the system moving towards the region as we go on into the day today, tonight, and on into tomorrow morning. By the time we go towards Thursday early morning, you see that upper level low right over the top of BC and western Washington. Then as that system swings through, we start to get some ridge building going on here off our coast, and it's going to ramp up the temperatures a bit. How long will that last? How long will the heat last? Well, we'll take a look at that here more in a moment. So looking at where we are right now, you can see a lot of the Oregon coast is fairly clear. A few more clouds across Washington and much more cloudy across portions of British Columbia as this frontal system is already starting to bear down. And I'll toggle back and forth and kind of see it moving in here as we go through this morning. Now let's quickly scroll back through yesterday. You can see a lot of that marine there didn't really fully burn off across western Washington. We had some pretty foul air out there also. We'll look at the air quality index here in a moment. But we also had thunderstorms across eastern Oregon, northern Washington Cascades, northeast, British Columbia, some of Montana, and Idaho yesterday as well. Then we go through the overnight hours and back out to where we are right now. So here we go. Lightning strikes over the last 24 hours. You can kind of see that lines up with what we just looked at. If you were east of the Rockies, you got a big lightning show out there yesterday. Now, thunderstorm activity, you can see it does not include Washington, Oregon, or Idaho, but it does include portions of British Columbia. You can kind of see how that cutoff goes right there. So anyway, air quality index. So you can see the colors here, and of course you get to the purple and the maroons there, and you get to very unhealthy and hazardous air. But you can also see that we're doing not too bad here across much of the region. Just a few areas with some yellow, but the greens are good air quality out there. So the Bear Gulch fire not doing too bad here this morning. We did clean things up here across western Washington yesterday, so glad to see that. Now, if we look at above ground smoke, the Bear Gulch fire, just a little bit of smoke coming off of it there, but not much over the next couple of days. We'll see if that's going to flare back up and if it's going to get nasty again as we start to bring the heat back through the extended forecast. Now, taking a look at the European on the left, this is what's going on. And we got the European of the same model here, the deterministic on yesterday morning's run. So we'll kind of look at some of the consistency in the European model itself. And you can kind of see not much has changed since yesterday morning. That bit of a bowling ball right over the top of western Washington and British Columbia. As we go on in through Thursday morning, the system will be swinging through as we go through Thursday night and finally getting across some of the Intermountain West and pushing off across Montana by the time we go towards Friday afternoon. And then you see that ridge start to build out over the Pacific Ocean, starts to extend back up and across Western Canada. You notice the ridge isn't quite as strong as what it was showing yesterday here. So this is going to be a big tell on just how warm we're going to get here across the region. So that ridge builds up and sticks itself a little bit further north, the ridge axis. It'll get a little bit warmer here, and it backed off on that a little bit, but still it's going to get dramatically warmer as we go through the weekend coming up. So let's take a look first things first on what we can expect with this next system. Well, there's our low pressure center here as we go through this morning. It's right near Haida Gwaii, and you can see western BC, Vancouver Island. Starts to bring some of that precipitation as we're going through the day today. Approaches the Washington coast by the time we go towards this evening and nighttime hours. We're into Wednesday, very early morning now, and the rain starts to arrive in earnest, according to the European, for the Oregon, Washington coast. If you're across the southwest Oregon coast and some of the southern Willamette Valley, of course, you're going to get lesser amounts, as you can kind of tell here as this frontal system moves in. But areas Portland north, you can kind of see it starts to really become a fairly rainy day here as we go through the day on Wednesday. Southwest BC also, and then look at that all the way through Wednesday afternoon. And some of that even moves east of the mountains there, maybe the I-90, Highway 2 corridor there as well across eastern Washington, getting some rainfall And then as we go through Thursday morning, you see this precipitation still hanging out for Western Washington. That is the convergence zone. And this is going to shift south across Seattle, maybe towards SeaTac as we go through Thursday morning as well. Getting a wind shift out there, maybe a thunderstorm or two. You cannot rule it out. So I toggle back and forth. And then that system kicks out as we go through Friday morning. Then we start to nose this ridge of high pressure back up across the region and we dry things out yet again. Now, if we take a look at the North American model composite reflectivity, we'll again take a look at the precipitation timing. It's moving in as we go through this afternoon and evening. Starts to really come in as we go through the overnight hours and on through the early morning hours. The North American model not bringing quite as much for Portland as the European, but you can kind of see it does bring some across Northwest Oregon. And then again, Wednesday, a fairly rainy day here across much of Western Washington. And as we go through Wednesday night, Wednesday evening, you see the convergence zone activity start to really get ramped up here. Can't rule out a couple thunderstorms with that activity there. And that's going to hang on here across the area all the way through Thursday morning and eventually becomes progressive and kind of pushes itself down across Seattle, maybe towards SeaTac as we go through Thursday morning. And finally, that system starts to move out. Now, let's take a look at 925 millibars, about 2,500 feet off the surface, and you'll see the winds pick up out of the south across the Washington coast there. It starts to go as we go through tomorrow morning, coming across some of the Puget Sound there. Some blustery winds out there with that frontal system. Nothing too exceptional. We're not looking at any power outages or anything like that. This is still a fairly tame frontal system compared to its cousins that we will get in the fall and the winter time that will be much stronger, no doubt. But it is very significant here for one of the driest times of the year to get a system rolling through like this. So you got to enjoy it. Now, taking a look as we go through Wednesday night into Thursday morning, see how the winds start to wrap around the Olympic Mountains there, and then they meet on the leeward side. You get that air pushing together. It has nowhere to go but up, and then you get the condensation, precipitation, and maybe a thunderstorm or two with that. And then you can kind of see the northerlies push down across the Puget Sound. Again, some convergence along that boundary there likely as we go through Thursday morning, and then that pushes off to the east. Now, I'll leave this link down below. I did an educational video, 2 or 3 years ago on the Puget Sound convergence zone, so I'll leave that link down below. You guys can click on that and watch to your heart's content. I talk about it in extreme detail over about a 20-minute period, and I go over some past weather events as well. So now, anyway, taking a look at 500 millibar temperatures here. So I just wanted to kind of show you the data there at the upper levels of the atmosphere in this latest European model. You can see that little bit of a bowling ball there roll across the area here. A little taste of what's to come this fall and winter, no doubt. And then there we go through Thursday afternoon. And at 10,000 feet, you can see the same feature right there. Yep. So there we go. That's what's driving our frontal system. Now, taking a look at total precipitation in inches, I'm going to back this up, and you can kind of see that precipitation really get ramped up as we go through the day on Wednesday. It does show some decent amounts on the European for Portland, but you see the sharp cutoff right there once you get a bit further south. Southern portions of the Willamette Valley not getting nearly as much precipitation. Sorry about that, but don't shoot the messenger. I just report the weather. I don't control it. And you can see in the blues, though, a lot of areas are getting up over ½ an inch. Look at that, Seattle, 0.6 of an inch by Wednesday afternoon. And then as we scroll through the overnight hours, you notice we get a bump across some of this area here. That's the convergence zone still going on in through the day on Thursday. And when you get to these yellows, some areas are getting up over an inch, maybe 1.5 inches locally, and across southwest BC. Nice drenching rainfall here as well. Enjoy it because we're going to dry out again in the wake of this system, though. Now, looking at significant wildland fire potential outlook for September of 2025, this goes for August as well. Much of the region is above normal, so this is a very beneficial rainfall coming up there. But if it's just one and done, and then we build the ridge and we stay dry, it's really honestly not going to help that much. But on the flip side of that, anything helps some. I mean, the rainfall that's going to come here is going to help to some extent. But yeah, we're still going to be above normal likely as we go on through August and September. Now, this is Seattle-Tacoma. Here is the deterministic run. Look at that, showing up towards 0.6 of an inch. The ensemble mean, still a decent amount there, 4/10 of an inch as well. And you see the individual ensemble members there, those gray lines. Portland International, right around 1/3 of an inch. Pretty good model agreement with the European. Now, this is Eugene. Now, you go further down in the Willamette Valley, and you're only talking a few hundredths of an inch of precipitation. So, yeah, I wish this frontal system was making a little bit more of a reach south, but there it is. Yakima, check it out, maybe 1/1500ths of an inch, so about 1/6 of an inch of rainfall there. And there is some ensemble disagreement on just how much precipitation is going to fall. Now, Bend Municipal, of course, you can imagine the further you go south, it's only showing a couple hundredths of an inch in the ensemble mean. Boise, not much at all, maybe a trace if you're lucky. Spokane, showing you right around a tenth of an inch, maybe 2/10 of an inch, so not too bad there. You can take what you can get. And this is Hoquiam on the Washington coast, showing right around 4/10 of an inch precipitation also. Some locally higher amounts, no doubt, as you get across some of the higher terrain of the Olympic Mountains, though. Now, this is Snohomish County. So here we go with the frontal system right there. Then you notice that secondary bump. That would be the convergence zone activity, putting Everett up close to about a half an inch of precipitation by the time we get towards the day on Thursday. Now, let's look at the extended forecast a bit here. We got the European Artificial Intelligence versus the GFS, the drunk uncle, the USA model here on the right. We'll put these into motion. Look at the bowling ball moving across the area. Good model agreement as we go through Thursday, no doubt. And then we start to build that ridge there, and we extend it back up and across the region. And you can kind of see that ridge is going to be hanging out for a bit. But as we go through Monday night into Tuesday, the artificial intelligence already wants to break it down and flattens out the ridge, has the high pressure retreat back north of the Hawaiian Islands, and this would start to cool us down. The GFS does not really show too much in the way of that as we go through next week. So still some model disagreement. That's to be expected at this time range, but we are going to get this ridge building as we go through the upcoming weekend, ramping up our temperatures. Now, so we take a look at the ensemble members and see what we got there. We got the European versus the European Artificial Intelligence ensemble member. This is a new tool here on the right. And you can see, of course, the bowling ball moving through. The ridge starts to build. And we've got some good agreement here as we go through the upcoming weekend and through the early portion of next week. But the ensembles do have this high retreating back to the west a bit and allowing for maybe, some troughing to pass by across Western Canada. We'll see how that goes. But that would keep the excessive heat to a minimum here across the area. So I know the Mossbacks will like to hear that. Now, national blend of models, daily 2-meter max temperature, Tuesday, August 5th. You can see not too bad out there today. Some mid 70s for Seattle, maybe some lower 80s. Look at Medford checking in at 90, Boise 89, some upper 80s out there. But, not too bad out there as well. The temperature suppressed a little bit. We go through tomorrow, and again, a pretty rainy day. I wonder if we're even going to hit 71 at Seattle, honestly. But yeah, you can see the temperature suppressed across much of the region as this frontal system will be kicking through. Then we go Thursday, Friday. We start the gradual warm up in earnest as we go through Friday, Saturday. There's Sunday. You see some 80s returning, Southwest BC, all the way back down to the Willamette Valley, some mid and upper 90s, maybe starting to show up there as well. Look at these temperatures, 105 for Medford, maybe up towards 100 degrees for some portions of the Willamette Valley. Eastern Washington up towards 100 degrees by the time we go to Monday. And then again, depending on how long that ridge and how well it amplifies or whether ridge axis sets up is going to mean everything in the extended. And there's Portland on the GFS. You see that warmth coming in here, maybe a 100-degree day. We'll see how that goes as we get a little bit closer. And then we go to Seattle. Some warmth showing up on the GFS there as well. You take that with a grain of salt. And just the general picture here and the overall messaging is that we are going to be warming up as we go through the weekend. There's the Tri-Cities as well. Similar picture. 6 to 10 day temperature outlook above normal across much of the West Coast. That makes sense with what we just looked at, August 10th through 14th. And there's that 6 to 10 day. And again, kind of that troughing, that backdoor cold front action, maybe keeping some of that precipitation going. But yeah, check out the Patreon page here. It's free to join up there. Send me some images there in the community tab. What else? I guess that's it for today. We'll check back out with this all again tomorrow when it'll no doubt be raining here across a lot of the region. Mossbacks rejoice. Kind of a rare summer frontal system rolling through here at one of the driest times of the year. You can't beat that. So anyway, check back again then. Click like and subscribe. We'll do this all again tomorrow, and I will talk to you guys then.